Hey, welcome back to Tuesday Guys Trade Stocks. I'm Dylan.
And I'm Vinny.
And TLT hit 87. Big deal. I bought a bunch. However, it still could go lower because turns out there still could be a government shutdown. Not now, but later. We're going to look at a couple of things, how a government shutdown would affect bonds and why there are hedge funds shorting TLT even now, which is wild because it's low.
Tuesday Guys Trade Stocks.
Yeah, man. People, this TLT trade is definitely getting some attention, at least finally. Whether or not it's a good idea, that's a different question.
Yeah, I mean, I already shorted like to hell. Like, kind of like a common sense trade, right? When I shorted it, I did it with options. So, I mean, I still made like a lot of money, but I wish I would have put even more money in it because this way it's safe in the fact that as long as the U.S. does not default or we have some weird economic expansion that just seems impossible. Anyways, here is the graph. These are the same lines of support I've had forever up here. You can see in the green circle. Let's zoom in a little bit. Yada-da. We bounced off right 87. I will show you how much I have. I'm not fully in yet. I also have some puts that may be exercised, so I'm waiting for like 2 weeks. The government did not shut down. They came up with a deal, but it's only for like 45 days, right?
Yeah, they just kicked the can down the road a little bit, which is classic U.S. government mentality. I love it.
Yeah, I feel like that happens like every 2 years, and then they either do make a deal or they don't.
Yeah.
So this is not like a shot on Republicans. Full disclosure, depending on what site you look at, it's just the site shitting on Republicans or Democrats. It's actually very hard to get objective information about this kind of stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I love the title there. Republicans reject own funding bill. That's like, man, like shoots himself in foot.
Yeah. I mean, it depends on where you look. It's just...
Yeah.
It's annoying. There's just like no objectivity anymore. The reason why this whole government shutdown thing is happening is they're trying to agree on a budget. And I don't know if we have any math geniuses watching, but this is what we call an exponential growth.
Yeah.
But not
US
growth in
debt.
a good way.
Yeah, exactly. I can't remember the exact detail, but it was something along the lines that at current bond prices, the U.S. will be spending between $1.2 and $1.3 trillion in interest payments alone in the next like 12 months if the yields stay the same.
Yeah, it not sustainable. This is a problem. Once again, I'm gonna get to the other fun stuff. I just thought this was kind of interesting because this shows that this is not just a Republican Democrat thing. So this is all the way since 88.
80.
Each year, each president, each year that the budget went over or under. The only 4 years since then, they were actually on a row, that the president or year went under budget was 2 years of Clinton and 2 years of Bush.
It's interesting that it coincided with the great .com bubble, if you will, too.
Yeah.
I wonder how much that had a role to play here, but
Then let me just move my face here. Then we just from like 2008, which you would expect to spend a lot of money. There's a little bit of problem there,
Yeah.
kind of a big deal, but not just consistently forever. So that's good.
And then we got a pandemic where they got double-digit percentage increases in surplus spending there.
Yeah, it makes sense for like 2 years. Like I feel like 8, 9, and 10, you'd expect to spend a bunch of money. 20, 21, you'd expect to spend a bunch of money. After that, I don't get your shit together. So in a government shutdown, this is TLT, zoomed in. I believe this is 2013. I would have thought there would have been more movement for bonds. There's not. Doesn't really affect it. Kind of interesting. There's 16 days. That's where it starts. This is only lasted 2 days, and then this is the crazy long one. This is the one with Trump with like 35 days. The red is where it started. The green is where it ended. It actually kind of went up.
Yeah.
Weirdly enough.
So it doesn't really give you any predictive value based upon government shutdown and its impact upon something like bonds or TLT.
Yeah. Here's just so I could like show proof because I I hate YouTube guys who are like, oh, I bought a bunch of this, and they really didn't scam artists. So I'm at 300 shares. My average cost is 96. I would like to get that down to 94. I got another 20 or 30 I'm going to throw at it. So they had previously mentioned, not in September, but the meeting before, that there's about one more hike. No, that was September.
So yeah, it was the dot plot that just came out in September.
Yeah.
That the federal, it's basically a poll of the federal board governors, and they vote on what they think the terminal rate will be for every year. So the midpoint they had for the end of this year implies another 25 basis point increase, and they only have 2 more meetings to go.
Right. Now, here's where this gets interesting. There is a lot of articles that show that if there is a government shutdown, which is in between these 2 meetings, the odds of a point increase greatly shoot down. A, they don't have the correct data anymore, and I don't know the other reasons, to be honest with you, but for some reason, Bank of America and Citi were like, no, it definitely won't happen. So.
Well, I mean, the uncertainty added there would be one thing, and then also you would have a significant portion of money that's not being spent. A lot of things in the economy are on autopilot as far as the government spending going. So people still continue to get the Social Security benefits. You still have to pay your student loans, unfortunately, if it does go into a federal government shutdown. But you would have certain things like the women's food stamp program would be shut down probably within like a week or two because they would run out of money. So there would be definitely a decrease in the amount of money available in certain pockets of the economy.
Hot. All right. So, yeah, this is basically the only risk. Interest rates skyrocket because we default, which I don't think is going to happen. Maybe when it hit 50 trillion, we might, though. That's like in 2 years at this rate. So,
Yeah, probably.
Here's the interesting thing. All right. So, Rob Ackman obviously has been a proponent of shorting these. We did a video on that earlier. But it says here, this is from Reuters. That's the correct way to pronounce it. Hedge funds short positions in some treasuries futures contracts for the purchase and sale of bonds for future delivery have recently hit record highs. All right? Yeah. So you have a large group of people who are starting to go long TLT or bonds, and then a large group of people who are shorting, which wild to short at this level.
Well, it depends on your trading strategy, right? Like you're looking at it from a long-term value, like kind of buy and hold mentality. If they're looking at it from a chart perspective, we're at a point where there isn't a definitive like support. It hasn't shown a resistance level yet, right? It's been able to break through pretty much everything that's wanted to on the downside.
Heavy disagree with you there. It has bounced quite a few times. And it bounced off 87, just like I said it would. There is a very, very strong support at 80. I will show you at the very end of this.
And below 80 is uncharted territory. So maybe that's
80.
part of their thought process. So that's kind of what I was trying to get to. Sorry, but I didn't put it well. But maybe that's what they're doing from a momentum trade. It looks like it's going to continue going down there, and then below then it's like no one knows what it'll do.
Yeah, I mean the yields on the interest rates at that point would be terrifying. What's this, Vinny?
So this is an interesting chart. So those articles I was reading basically arguing against initiating a TLT position right now on Seeking Alpha, and this is from there. Just talking about the fact that although yields have continued to sell off, TLT has had now cash inflows, meaning on a net basis, people are buying and investing into TLT, and it's continued this pattern month over month as yields have continued to drop. Is what this chart right here is highlighting. So this isn't exactly a hidden trade in any sort of manner, but I think you're looking at the kind of switchover point between 2 different types of investors. Those have been following this trend and just following it down to its inevitable conclusion when it finally definitively tells you that it's going to turn around, versus those that are just kind of trying to be early to the next cycle, where eventually that the federal government will cut rates because they can't continue paying $1.3 trillion a year in interest. So trying to be a front running the next trade versus following this one that hasn't shown it's run out of steam yet. So that's what you're saying.
Right. Would you say that this is good evidence for long or for short, or just interesting?
I think it's just you're at a point where you're going to have a switchover of the type of investor, right? You remember, you rode TLT down quite a ways, but you got out before this. What was your ultimate exit point for TLT on like the bearish trade?
100.
Yeah, 100. So, these are people that, are maybe still initiating positions now at this point. So maybe they're late to that trade, or they could say that you exited early. It's a mentality about what your target is and when you're hoping to achieve that. So I think if you're a patient person and have a 3-4 year time horizon, it's probably still a great time to buy it. But if your trading pattern is going to be through the end of this year, beginning of next year, next 6 months or so, then it
That's a
might
good
still
point.
be an opportunity short, right?
Yeah, that's why I'm not fully in, because just in case it hits 80, I'd like to drop 20, 30 grand on it.
Yeah.
What is this?
Yeah, so this is a little kind of jab at Congress here, basically. So this is a chart showing how ineffective they become, and how it continues to get worse at every congressional session over time. That they cannot get anything passed. Everything comes down to a last minute showdown. There's people threatening everything and doing filibusters. It's just how Congress operates now, and it's getting worse and worse, unfortunately. In this such a polarized country where we can't actually get things done, which is what you're seeing here. Yeah, this is why the Republicans are downvoting the Republican bill.
Hmm.
uh, yeah,
I was, I was hoping I was gonna. It's on that other graph. It's zoomed out since 2002, but it bounced off 80 a couple of times. Nah, I'll show
yeah.
it next time.
Let's see.
Yeah, I mean, I I would be terrified to short TLT at this level, but I'm also shorting Nicola, and it's at $1.50, so that's kind of the same
Yeah.
thing, right?
Well, Nicola can go bankrupt. The U.S. government
Could.
very likely. It could.
Ah,
It's theoretically possible.
the
Kind
the
of.
same chances of America going bankrupt are the same chances of Nicola succeeding. I think that's
Yeah.
fair. Yeah,
Or me getting more swimming medals than Michael Phelps.
fair enough. All right, guys, let us know what you think.